DJI Mini 3 Pro is here, but should you upgrade to this drone if you already have the very popular and quite capable DJI Mini 2? Let's find out. Now, these drones are very similar. At the same time, they are super different. We've seen so many new features being added to the Mini 3 Pro, and I want to quickly go through all of them. So starting off with the weight and the size. The weight is the notorious 249 grams, which all previous mini drones have had. It's exactly 249, and I still don't know how DJI managed to cram all of these features, make all of these design changes and still keep the same weight. On the front, you will see that this drone now has obstacle avoidance sensors, which is huge for this drone. It has never had them before. And now we also have obstacle avoidance sensors for the back side of the drone, which are still on the front of the drone, but just looking back. The drone has a whole new design which looks nothing like it did before. We have longer props, quieter sound when the drone is hovering. It's almost like impossible to notice the drone in the air because it's that silent. The drone itself is definitely a lot more durable against stronger winds, and it's more stable in the air while it hovers. And it now has an upward gimbal tilt of up to 60 degrees, which makes it possible to look up in the sky and compose your shots in a whole different way. And of course, we can't forget the fact that you can flip your gimbal into vertical mode, allowing you to shoot in vertical orientation for social media like Instagram, TikTok, and more. When it comes to the camera, we have quite a few differences. The Mini 2 has a 1/2.3 inch f2.8 sensor, which shoots 4K 30 frames per second, whereas the Mini 3 Pro has a 1/1.3 inch f1.7 sensor, which shoots 4K 60 frames per second. The difference in the aperture means that the Mini 3 Pro allows for a lot more light to come into the sensor, meaning that your shots will be brighter, crisper, and better looking. At a first glance, when you compare the image coming from the Mini 2 and the Mini 3 Pro side by side, there won't be any massive drastic difference. However, if you look a little bit closer, you will see that the Mini 2 has this over-sharpened effect to the image, which doesn't look very good. This is not present on the Mini 3 Pro. In addition, the Mini 3 Pro now has d-cinelike color profile, which allows you to color grade your footage afterwards in post. You don't have to use the normal color profile. And in addition, we just found out that recently DJI changed the d-cinelike footage coming from the Mini 3 Pro to 10-bit. Which definitely holds a lot more information and allows a lot more tweaking when you shoot in d-cinelike, so you can color grade your footage afterwards without having that bending in your footage. Now let's talk about the remote controllers, because here we have something quite interesting to talk about. Usually DJI drones come with this DJI RC N1 remote controller in the package, and then we've seen that on the Mini 2, the Air 2, the Air 2S, and also the Mavic 3. However, now on the Mini 3 Pro, we have an option for this DJI RC with a built-in screen, 700 nits of brightness, and a super lightweight. This remote does not have protruding antennas. They are all built in, and you can see the grips on the back. The sticks are hidden here, also on the back, and generally it's very comfortable. I've said that in a previous video. This is the most comfortable remote controller I've ever held in my hands. It's definitely the number one for me right now, but it's not perfect. The 700 nits of brightness is not ideal, especially in a very bright and sunny weather. Your smartphone would most probably beat this in a direct comparison, especially in a very bright and sunny weather. However, the convenience factor is definitely up here. However, if you already have a DJI drone which has this remote controller, you can order the Mini 3 Pro without an RC and just bind this to the drone. Or if you just don't like the idea of having a remote controller with a built-in screen like this, you can simply order the Mini 3 Pro with the RC N1. This is the point where I need to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Mini 3 Pro videos. I have a lot more coming to the channel, so stay tuned for that, and thank you so much for the support. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, the design of this drone is very drastically different from the Mini 1 and the Mini 2. Mostly because of these obstacle avoidance sensors here on the front and the ones that we have on the back as well. And because these obstacle avoidance sensors, we now have features that we've never had on a mini drone before, such as active track, focus track, point of interest, and all of these intelligent flight modes that require some sort of obstacle avoidance to work. Personally, I think it's a huge step forward for DJI to introduce these features to the smallest drone they have in their lineup, because this will open up more possibilities for new pilots to use these features and get more creative shots. When talking about intelligent flight modes, there are a few more that are not present on the Mini 2, however they are present on the Mini 3 Pro. We also have master shots, hyperlapse and built-in HDR, which works great by the way. It combines all the different exposures into one video and it works automatically. You don't have to switch to HDR, it just works right away if you're using the correct frame rate, which is up to 30 frames per second in 4K. This drone comes with OcuSync 3.0, which is also known as O3, as opposed to the OcuSync 2 on the Mini 2. Statistically, O3 is much better than O2, obviously, and although I haven't pushed this drone very far away, I won't be doing any range tests with it anytime soon because I just don't feel like doing them anymore. However, after a lot of urban flying with the Mini 3, I've never had any issues with the signal. The only issue I've had with the Mini 3 Pro was the fact that it overheated while being on the ground. I was taking some shots of it and the drone was just turned on without props spinning or motors working. So the drone overheated. It needed to either be turned off or to start flying with it so it can cool down. But other than that, I've never had any range issues. I've never had any other issues with it. So I've heard some people complaining about the range, but even after flying a lot in urban areas where the signal is the worst, I still haven't had any issues. So now is the time to answer the final question. Should you upgrade to the Mini 3 Pro if you have the Mini 2? Obviously, the easy answer is yes, especially if you plan to use all of these newly added features like active track, the obstacle avoidance, focus track, hyperlapse, d-cinelike, all of these things. If they do matter for you, then by all means go for it. However, there is a big however that I want to point out. The DJI Mini 2 is still the best cheap drone that you can buy. And I'm saying this because the Mini 3 Pro is significantly more expensive compared to the Mini 2. And many people, I know for a fact, many people don't ever use these features that the Mini 3 Pro has, and they won't ever use them. So if you don't care as much for active track or all of these things that I previously mentioned in this video, then by all means don't upgrade to the Mini 3 Pro because the Mini 2 is still quite capable, and I'm sure if you use the right settings, you know how to compose your shots, and you present a couple of shots with the Mini 2 and the Mini 3 Pro to someone who doesn't know anything about drones, they will not see the difference. It's all about pixel peeping and small things that only matter to a specific groups of people. And if you're one of those groups that really need those features, then of course, go for it. Link in the description if you want to buy the DJI Mini 3 Pro. However, if you don't really care about all of these things, you don't really care about having the latest and greatest from DJI, you can still purchase the Mini 2 even in 2022, even after more than a year of this drone being present on the market. It's still a great purchase, it's still a great deal, and it still deserves to be flown and being enjoyed by everyone. So that's everything I have for you today. I hope this video has been helpful and it has been informative enough so you can form your opinion whether you should actually buy the Mini 3 Pro or not. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Take care everyone. I'll see you very soon in my next video. Ciao.